Everyone get a hold of yourself.
No, we're ready. Welcome to Spooky Sips, where we put our love of horror movies into a podcast and sip some spirits along the way. I'm one of your hosts, Yvette, and I'm here with Laura.
Hello.
And Brianna.
Hey. All right. So, you guys, we just watched House on Haunted Hill. Now, we watched the 1959 version. This is the original one. Originally, it was in black and white, but it's been remastered to color. Okay, so you've probably heard of this movie because there's been a lot of reiterations. But basically, this one is about rich oddball Frederick Lauren, who proposes 5 guests, and they're just randomly chosen guests, some from his company, some from I don't even know where, to come to his wife's party that is at a potentially haunted house. And he's going to offer them $10,000 if they stay the entire night. Now, they don't know this going in, but he's actually going to lock them in and they have to stay overnight. So it's like full commitment. And we don't really know much else going into the movie. This is all we know. So the stage is set for a very creepy evening.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, my kind of party.
Yes.
Now, we should say this is only our second episode, but this one we did not watch together. We watched separately. And it was definitely a different experience, at least in my opinion. It was not as enjoyable watching it apart.
I know.
Watch
it with friends. Watch it with friends for sure.
Yeah, watch with friends, you guys.
Yeah, so I did enjoy that as much.
Together.
Yeah.
Exactly. But let's just jump in. What did we think of the movie itself?
I loved it. I had done a little bit of research, before watching the movie just to get some like fun facts and stuff. And when I looked up stuff about the director, he looked like he was very popular for like gimmicks and like very like campy movies, which I think can sometimes be like a sign that it's going to be a bad movie. So I actually went into it with like a very, very low expectation of what I was going to get. And I was very pleasantly surprised. I actually really liked it.
I agree. I liked it too. I mean, strong start. The start is just one of the best horror movie screams I've ever heard in my life. With nothing is on the screen, just pitch black and just this blood curdling scream. So I was like, okay, I'm into it. And yeah, I also really liked it. Thought it was good.
Yeah, so I had seen it before. So 2 years ago, I found it on a list of like classic horror movies that you have to see. And this was one of them. And it was on the list because, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but because it was like kind of one of the first movies to use like those creepy background noises, like chains dragging and ghoulish sounds in the background. So I was like, okay, I have to watch this movie. So I watched it a couple of years ago, and holy cow, like when I think of like the epitome of a 1950s black and white scary movie, this is what I think of. Like it had every mark. Like there was this one scene somewhat towards the beginning when they just had first gotten to the house. And what was her name? Nora, I think was
Nora.
The one.
And the main scared person.
Yes. The hysterical one. She goes down to the cellar with the guy and they're like exploring. And she has this moment where she's like alone in the one room and it's just this gray background and her face is just all lit up. And there's this crazy music happening. And I was like, holy cow, this is such a moment. Like,
yeah.
Such a moment.
Yeah.
No, the soundtrack for it was actually really good. Yeah,
just having this play in the background of a party would be like perfect. Because
for sure.
It's the perfect soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So really good. I feel like is going to be a stupid question. Edit, clap. Because I was going to say, have either of you seen Clue? But you both have seen Clue because we have dressed as Clue for Halloween.
So well, you could ask the audience if they've seen Clue.
Yeah.
Audience, if you haven't seen Clue, you should. It's not a scary movie, but it really reminded me of Clue.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is in my notes.
Okay. Okay.
I wrote, this gives me Hitchcock. This gives me Clue. This gives me Agatha Christie. Like it gave me all of that in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like the premise of it. And kind of like the campiness of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, even just the way, the whole vibe felt like,
well, because you're trying to figure out the whole time what's going on.
Exactly. Who done it?
Who done it? And what's even like not just who done it, but what is happening?
Yeah, like it's almost not even a who done it because you just don't even know what's happening.
Like it's like I'm trying to remember, like it's pretty early on that the crime is committed, right?
Yeah.
And by that I mean the woman is hanging.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like but even then you don't
midway,
you get a feel like that's not really the thing that's going on.
Yeah.
So it's like you're still waiting in anticipation, and I feel like until the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
Well, even after the end of the movie, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, but I still that's a question I have for you both, is if we think that the ghosts were real or not, but we can talk about that after we've talked a little bit more about the movie.
Can we talk about that scene though, where they find the body that is hanged, just like setting it up. I love the way that it was shot, because you see a body is hanging and you're getting it from like downstairs. So all you get is feet and like a dress. So you know it's a woman. Everyone assumes it's Nora because she's the one that's been like freaking out the whole time. So you're like, oh my God, there it is. It happened. Nora died. But like they kind of give you that pause for a while before they finally reveal that it's Annabelle.
I suspected it wasn't Nora just because of that. Yeah.
Well, and even his reaction, like the guy that finds her at first, you're like, wait, it was almost like they expected it. So you're like, wait, what? Like,
No, I loved it. I feel like that was actually suspenseful, because I think a lot of the movie can be like comedic, and I think they were intentional about it, kind of like over exaggerated, like kind of funny. But when that happened, like I was actually like silent and like, oh my God, like what just happened?
Yeah. Stuff is going down now, finally. Yeah. And also I have a very important question. Is it hanged or hung? Because hanged to me sounds wrong. And I know that I think that that's what it actually is, but why is it hanged, not hung?
I don't actually know. I thought it was hanged.
I don't have the answer to that.
That's what they said in the movie. They said hanged, but I just it feels wrong to me.
It does. It does. Like grammatically, it feels wrong.
Grammatically, it does. I agree.
Okay.
I agree. It's okay. She's 2 scotches in. Don't worry about it.
I'm 2 scotches in, guys. Sorry.
Speaking of which,
I thought of it when I watched the movie totally sober. I thought the same thought. Thank you very much.
All right. Speaking of which, we should talk about what we're sipping on tonight.
Okay.
So our friend Laura found the drinks for us for this week. So Laura, what are we sipping on?
Okay, so what we're sipping on this week, and a benefit to watching the movie separate and sober, is that I watched the movie first and then chose what we're sipping on. So in the movie, there are multiple times that the character Ruth, who's basically the alcoholic gambling addict,
the writer, I think.
The writer, yeah. So she orders on multiple times a Scotch and.
I was going to ask about that. I didn't know what she was drinking.
Yeah, so they make drinks, and the guy's like, "Oh, what can I get you from the bar?" And she says, "I'll have a Scotch and." And he knows what that means, and so he just pours her a Scotch and. So I've been joking around about it while I was making the drink tonight, because from all of my, quick Googling, everyone just kind of assumes that it's a Scotch and soda, because there's no Scotch and blank always is going to autofill to soda.
Yeah.
Which is, and we were just talking about this, Scotch and soda is also, the first hits are a clothing brand. It's not an
amazing clothing, not a sponsor.
I've never heard of it. Scotch and soda. I have heard of you. I love your
this
clothes.
would make sense though, because he had one of the little soda things.
Yeah.
So like in the 50s, they used to have these things on bars all the time, like a little soda aerator or whatever. And he had one of those. So that would make sense that it's a Scotch and soda.
It took me a minute to realize though what she was ordering. Like I kind of had to like pause and I was like, okay, what does she want? She wants a scotch like and
Scotch and. It's a Scotch and.
Scotch
So,
and.
A Scotch and consists of the recipe is 2 ounces of Scotch, anywhere between 1 to 6 ounces of club soda to taste, which club soda is just sparkling water. Basically, it doesn't have flavor. And then if you want, you could do a little lemon twist in it. So it's kind of strong.
Do you guys like Scotch and I can't really think of the last time I had one. And
so I'm having the second one of our drinks because I refuse to drink Scotch.
They also drank champagne in the movie.
I am having champagne tonight.
Yes.
Because I don't drink Scotch. We don't even own Scotch. So
So Scotch is, I thought I drank Scotch, but no, I just drink whiskey because Scotch is expensive, guys.
And Scotch is like paint thinner. Like
I don't like it.
Yeah. Okay, so are you having it with whiskey then? Yours?
No, so I got the real deal. I
refuse to use my expensive Scotch to water it down with soda. So I left my Scotch alone.
Yeah. No, so I put a little soda in it.
Scotch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't drink Scotch. Sorry.
Scotch.
Scotchy. So I'm having champagne.
Have a vodka soda instead.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, you and Ruth are in good company then.
We really are actually. And I will talk about that when I get to our psychopathology.
Okay, so I have to bounce back for a second though. And I have to talk about one of the opening scenes where the husband and wife are in the bedroom getting ready. Like,
yes.
Cow,
let's go back there.
Is this couple life goal? Like the one-liners that they throw at each other and just the open disdain that they have for each other kills me.
This is like the unhealthy version of Morticia and Gomez from the Addams Family.
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, it was too much.
They had just the best line. Honestly, it was hard to write down the best lines because it was just everything that they said to each other. When he was leaving, and I think he said something about and don't sit there worrying about how you're going to get rid of me. It'll give you wrinkles before he walks out.
Oh yeah, he's such a jerk.
Okay. No, they were both horrible to each other.
They were both horrible.
Loved it.
Or the of all my wives, you're the least agreeable.
Yes, or when it's remember when you poisoned me? I was like, oh my God, yes.
Oh yes, arsenic on the rocks.
Yeah, so a bit of a toxic relationship. Absolutely.
Just a little.
Can we talk about her outfit though? Annabelle?
Every one of her outfits.
Where did you get that?
That purple outfit.
Now wait, so did you both for any of us watching, if any of our viewers have decided to watch our posting of the actual Zoom meeting, you'll notice that I'm in black and white. Well, the other girls are in color. Did you watch it in color, black and white?
I watched it in color.
Oh, I watched it in black and white.
I watched it in black and white. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wait, is it purple? Her outfit?
Yes. So I watched the color one because I don't know, that was the one that I had. But yes, it's purple and gold.
Oh,
the middle was gold and the outside was purple.
Oh, okay. Well, I have to say, even in black and white, it was fabulous.
It was.
I wanted it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that when you said, can we talk about the opening, scene, I thought you were going to talk about, or I thought you were going to say, can we talk about the floating heads? Because I literally have written down, let's talk about the floating heads.
Yes.
And in the opening scene, what was that about? Were they trying to show off special effects?
I would guess that they were trying to show off special effects because that was probably a really legit piece of technology they got
the first use of a green screen.
Yeah.
That's what
and I think it was actually a fairly low budget movie. So that is funny that they decided to spend it on that. I think we could have gotten the same effect with a person just standing in front of the house for sure.
Well, and there was just something so unhinged about the one guy. I can't remember his name, but the one that was convinced that it was his sister-in-law,
his family,
it was his family.
Oh, that was Watson.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Watson. Oh, what an unhinged fellow. Like
Thanks a
he
lot.
really
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Talking about the first scene and kind of back to our drink. Why did he shake the champagne? As he was like getting the champagne ready, he like gave it a shake. Is that something anyone
I think it was just to
does?
piss her off.
Just to be
Yeah.
annoying.
I think it was just to be antagonistic because like it really annoyed her.
I agree.
And I really think it was just to antagonize her.
I was
Yeah.
literally taken aback. Like I was like, oh, like why would anyone shake the champagne?
It was
I think
just-
it was just to bother her.
It was just to pull a dick move and just,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
Mhm.
yeah.
I just
Yep.
assume I know nothing about alcohol. I'm like, am I supposed to be shaking my champagne?
No,
Is
no,
that-
you are not.
Unless you are winning the Formula One race, no, you are not.
Yeah, I would say no. I would say
Don't go around shaking your
nope.
champagne bottle.
No.
Okay, we'll use that as our PSA then.
Yeah.
Let's see. The other thing that I had written down to talk about was just everyone, all of the men being creeps, especially the husband, putting their hands on the women's shoulders and
Yes.
just like the
And
pressure
so
and just
aggressively.
holding them so
Mhm.
You could just
aggressively.
See
It's-
it.
Yeah.
It
was
made me
a lot.
so uncomfortable. I think that that's part of why I thought the movie was a bit scary. I did jump a couple of times.
No, I know.
But I think it's just because, like, I don't know if it's the floating heads or just the toxic masculine energy or something. But it's just,
I mean, I think knowing the end of the movie makes it a little more like understandable as to why he was pissed off at her.
that's
Yeah.
true. I hated him the whole movie until the
So
end.
like
and
maybe part of it was that he was like, oh, this is all just a ruse
Mhm.
to kill
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
probably be pretty mad at my spouse too
Yeah.
if I knew that.
So
Yeah.
were we all surprised by the twist? By the
I
twist?
guess double twist.
I was
Well, yeah.
surprised by the first twist.
Mhm.
And then once the first twist happened, I had a feeling that that the husband knew.
Okay, so
So,
should we
like,
talk about the twists?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yes,
once
yes.
it was revealed that the wife was really having an affair with the doctor and they were all there to try to get Nora to kill her husband. Once that twist was revealed and she really wasn't dead. I guess the major twist is she wasn't dead.
Mhm.
Right. So like once we knew that, then
Mhm.
we had the second twist.
Yes. Yes.
Where then Frederick actually knew that Annabelle was trying to kill him. And then he, in fact, had planned to kill her.
Yes. So I forget the psychiatrist's name.
Yeah, me
The
too.
psychiatrist is David.
David. So David had Frederick go check on Nora.
Mhm.
Right, with the intention of Nora's going to be so afraid that she'll
Yes.
just shoot him as soon as he sees him.
Right.
So we go to the basement, which we do need to talk about the setup of this wine cellar with a vat of acid. He goes down into the basement and it happens. Nora shoots him. And so the psychiatrist goes downstairs to like clean up the scene. And then it goes black, right? Am I
Yeah, it
remembering
goes
that
dark.
correctly? It goes
Yep.
dark. So you assume he's about to go throw Frederick's body down the vat of acid.
Yep.
But actually, it was the other way around.
And did that happen? Did he throw both of them in the vat of acid? Because we never
Mhm.
really saw him throw the doctor in the acid. Are we just
Well-
assuming that he did?
We didn't see it, but I did during the black screen. I think it was like you hear
Like you
someone
heard someone in the acid.
fall
Okay.
in. So I think we can assume it was him.
Okay. That makes
So,
sense.
but it wasn't actually him that pushed her in the acid. It was
True. Oh my gosh.
Guys, I could not stop laughing. I
Okay,
know it
yes.
was supposed to be funny, and I'm glad that you then learn that it was Frederick, the husband,
Right.
working a
Controlling
skeleton, kind of like a puppeteer.
Yes.
Because I was like, you guys, you can see the strings. This is
Yeah.
and the skeleton looked so happy. So basically, Annabelle's
he was
freaking out. She
really
thinks-
happy.
Yeah, she thinks the skeleton is coming at her. This, actual skeleton. has
She
kind of,
probably
like-
thought it was her husband because he was supposed to be thrown in the acid.
Well,
So
and
she
he's
probably thought it was her husband.
well, and he's talking to her the whole
Right.
time, like
Right.
as Frederick, saying like,
Yeah.
"I'm here to haunt you."
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's freaking out and the skeleton's coming towards her, but I'm seeing the strings on the skeleton and I'm just thinking, oh, this is like terrible 1950s,
Right.
special effects. But also the skeleton just looks so happy. He's just
I know,
going
just
through,
dancing.
Yeah, the little walk was amazing.
No, it was so good.
I would be curious to know, like, when this movie came out, how that was received. Like, was that scary then? Like,
Oh, okay. Yeah. So one thing, and I can give you like more of like the fun things that this guy did because he might be my new favorite director. He was known for doing all of these like kind of like crazy theater gimmicks. So actually for this movie, during that scene where the skeleton comes out of the acid, in a lot of theaters, they had an inflatable skeleton that would then drop down and like fly across the audience.
yeah.
So I think the first time people saw it, they were probably a little scared, but then I guess like as more people learned that it happened, people were like throwing popcorn and like soda at the skeleton and like trying to like knock it down. So I think it turned a little bit funnier near the end.
Oh my God, I
that.
love that.
That's amazing. I want to go to a movie where a skeleton comes.
Me
floating
too.
I know. I
over
was
my
like,
head.
we need to do this more. Also, fun fact, that is a real life skeleton because in true horror fashion, it was just cheaper and easier to get a real life human body.
I wondered if it was a real
that was
skeleton or not.
common until there was an industry standard to not be allowed to do that
Yes.
in the 80s. It was not until the 80s that there was an industry standard to not use human remains.
That is disappointing because I have to say, I want to donate all of my organs to science,
to movie
and-
sets.
and then
Then the
I
skeleton.
would absolutely love
Yes.
my skeleton.
My organs too. Mine can't be used for health, so they can have them
Just
for
movie.
set.
That's what I want. And shouldn't you have ownership of your own body and what happens to it? I would like my body to be used in horror movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I want.
They
Listen,
did.
if you go first, we'll make sure that happens.
We will.
Thank
We'll
you.
make
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Even
They
if we have
did
to
give
make our own.
him credits in the end credits. I don't know if
Oh,
you saw.
that's
It's
nice.
skeleton is played by himself.
No,
Oh,
that,
that's
I wrote that down in my notes. I said, wait, how is the skeleton played by himself? I didn't understand it.
Yep.
Now you know.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I was so into that. I was so confused though.
Oh my gosh. Well, one question is, would you guys stay there?
Yes.
What is the equivalent of $10,000 in 1959 to today's money?
That would be about 91,000 in
Yes.
today's dollars.
Okay.
I would do it. I would totally do it.
I would do it too. I would do it with you ladies.
Mhm.
Yes.
We could do it together.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I do it for free.
I would totally
to go stay in like
because that
the
house
real
looked
life horror
amazing.
movie. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That house looked absolutely like what was
Yeah.
the exterior first?
Oh yeah,
of
it's
all,
it's a Frank Lloyd Wright house in California.
Of
Not
course it
shocking
is.
at all. Of course.
It
yeah.
looked it looked like some sort of like I don't know, sculpture or something. It didn't look
Yes.
like a house.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
And
still
the interior
up
like
today.
wild.
The interior was a set. So they just
which
did
makes
the
sense 'cause
exterior
it
of the
doesn't
house.
match like
Yeah.
the outside aesthetic. It was
A
two
little
very
bit.
different houses they were showing.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Well, and so if anyone has read the book, actually, like I feel like we should give that a little bit of homage because
Yeah.
that the house in the book is crazy. Now, if you've seen the 90s version, it's a little bit different of a premise, the house on Haunted Hill, and it might be, is it called the same thing? I don't know.
Oh, I
all the
guess are
same
you
thing.
thinking of the Haunting on Hill House? Because those were actually it's kind of like funny. I actually can't find like sources that agree on this because the Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson was released in 1959. I think technically after this movie.
Oh,
So
which one
they're
am I
just
thinking of? Am I mixing up movies?
I'm mixing it up too then.
So they're just
No,
like
wait, I don't think
confusingly
I-
similar that are both about like spooky houses. So House on Haunted Hill, which is what we watched, also had a remake in 1999. But I think also in the 90s, they made the first movie of The Haunting on Hill House.
Hang on. We got to get
which
our
later turned
straight.
into the series on, the popular streaming platform.
Because they're all so different, like between the book and then the 90s movie and then the series and then this one. And I was confused as to why they were all so different.
I am confusing my movies.
I did the same thing.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
So
the House on Haunted Hill also had a 1999 version.
Yeah. So some people think that like, because the director was so gimmicky, again, like I can't really find people who agree which one came out first, this movie or the book. Some people think because the book was so popular, Castle, the director, may have named it this intentionally to
Borrowed,
get
similar.
it. Yeah. So yes, it is very confusing. Most of them have had remakes. I think like the first Haunting of Hill House movie was called The Haunting.
Okay.
To make it more confusing.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's just unnecessarily confusing.
I mean, houses, haunted, hills. There's a lot happening.
Come on.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's more confusing than it should be for sure.
Yep.
Oh man. Okay. Well.
Oh my gosh.
All right. So is it time that we call in the doctor, Dr. Laura?
Yes.
Ooh.
Are
Sure.
you ready? It's the time.
Here's the thing, guys. I got a lot to say.
Okay.
Okay. Well, this is only episode 2, technically.
So we should do some proper introduction.
So yeah, I mean, guys, this will be the second episode we release, but we have recorded a bunch before this. So let's give a little intro on Laura's segment.
So, Laura, would you like to introduce yourself?
No, I would like you to introduce me.
Okay. So Laura is our in-house psychologist. So Laura is a practicing psychologist. I'll let her talk a little bit more about what she actually does, but she is our expert when it comes to all things psychology here on Spooky Sips. And so whenever there's something happening in the minds of our movie murderers and victims, Laura comes in to tell us what the scoop is.
Yes. And this is graduate level work, we'll just add.
Okay.
Yes,
all right.
she's okay. We should add just for technical purposes. She's not actually a doctor. We just
we will be calling her that.
We just call her Dr. Laura, but she's a doctor in our hearts.
Yes. Just full disclosure, don't sue me. I am actually not a licensed psychologist, but I am a licensed school psychologist. So I do work with children and I'm legally allowed to do so, but I cannot technically, diagnose people. However, I have
diagnose movie murderers.
I have been enrolled in a PhD
that
program
more
for
than
1
we
year. Yes. So typically we will talk about, because I think we have not run across a horror movie yet where there has not been some type of psychosis or psychopathology or something that we could talk about.
There's a lot of analysts analyzing to happen here.
So I basically have something for every character.
Yes.
The first thing I think we need to talk about is hysteria.
Yes.
So they basically are trying to drive Nora. So basically Annabelle and Frederick, the couple, they're trying to drive Nora to hysteria because they want her to become so hysterical that she panics and she ends up shooting Annabelle's husband. The psychiatrist and Nora, David. The psychiatrist, David and Annabelle are trying to drive Nora to psychosis.
Yes.
So I almost wonder if David, the psychiatrist, had some sort of insight into Nora's psychological background.
And if that's why she was chosen. Because remember, she talked about how random it was that she was chosen. And maybe that is actually why.
But maybe he kind of assumed she was predisposed to it.
In some way.
So do either of you know anything about hysteria?
I mean, I know a lot of not safe for work things about hysteria. I know I know a lot of the common treatment methods that they used to use for hysteria.
Marital sex.
Yes. And literal actual doctor masturbation
Oh.
for patients.
I
When
didn't know any
they
of
had-
this.
Oh, it's like, yeah, if anyone needs a deep dive into something wild, look up like, and I'm talking even before the 50s. We're talking like Freud era hysteria. But yeah, that used to be a common practice.
Oh, I had no
Well,
idea.
Okay, so
Yeah.
hysteria has its origins from back in the day. Ancient Egyptians were the first to talk about hysteria. Even the word is it's rooted in ancient Greek for it means, I think, uterus.
Oh, of course.
Area.
Oh, of course.
Like
Yeah.
hystera or something like that. So basically it's
like hysterectomy.
yeah, like hysterectomy,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it has a really, really long history. But basically it's bullshit. So basically it was a way of, women who didn't behave well or who had unexplainable at the time mental health or physical health problems like chronic fatigue syndrome or epilepsy or Tourette's or
even just menstrual cycle.
menstrual things, or
issue.
if they didn't want to get married,
Yes,
was
if they
another
were
mental
single.
health disorder.
Well, she must be hysterical.
She must be
Exactly.
hysterical.
So
Look at her.
so it was basically a diagnosis that was mostly just reserved for women that didn't behave in ways that could be explained or that were approved by men.
Mhm.
Bullshit.
Mhm.
But it is not a legitimate, like it is not a thing anymore. It was removed from the DSM, so the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. Basically, all mental health disorders are kind of classified in that. It hasn't been in that since actually only the third DSM, which was in 1980. So not been that long.
Time is a funny thing because really we haven't come that far that long ago
Right.
when you really
Right.
think about it
Yeah.
as women.
Right. So you mentioned Freud, Brianna, and it's interesting because he was, while I don't agree with almost everything that he, brought forward, and a lot of all of his methods have been, kind of disproven and are not practiced now. He actually was the first person to say, you know what? Hysteria is not just for women. Men can have it too. I've got it. So like he actually was the first one to say, it's not just a woman's problem. Men can have it too.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, by the time that this movie would have come out, it was already starting to somewhat become questionable, right? Like doctors were still diagnosing women with hysteria, but it wasn't quite as maybe
it was
sound.
It was on the decline in the around this, especially the 60s. It was.
And so I'm thinking like,
Yeah.
Historically speaking, this would have them trying to force this diagnosis of hysteria on her. Even as audience members, we would have picked up at the time of like, ooh, maybe there's something going on because
Right.
why are they trying to force this diagnosis on her?
Right. Right. So so that's kind of some of the history of hysteria, but it is not a thing that you can be diagnosed with. It is not an actual.
I don't know. Sometimes I think it'd be easier because a lot of my issues, I'm like, if we could just call it hysteria and call it a day,
That'd
right?
be great.
You
That'd
know,
be great. Yeah.
make things a lot easier.
So easy.
My thought for
Just
what Nora
hysterical.
had was trauma,
Yeah.
panic, and fear, which are all very normal reactions to what the crap they put her through. Like, it's very appropriate for her to react that way.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I have more diagnoses if we want to.
Oh no, I want to hear all of it. This is
let's
my
hear
favorite
them.
segment.
Okay, so we've got Ruth. She is the journalist woman there who orders her Scotch and she, I would say, definitely has a gambling addiction
And alcohol.
addiction. So she's got those substances, she's got those concerns. Although I feel of all of them, she was one of the most, with it and likable characters.
I agree.
Okay, I was going to ask you guys, did you think that her character added something to the movie? Because to me,
she was underutilized.
Yeah, I think underutilized. I do think had she just been fully removed from the movie. I don't know if I would have noticed, honestly.
Like, I think that they should have used her more to comfort Nora. Like, there was a moment of that, but really, I think she should have been a greater ally to Nora. And I actually think that the movie could have been made better if her and Nora had this really strong allyship where she believed Nora and where she like backed Nora. I think could have made the movie better.
For sure. Yeah, I do. Yeah, agree. I feel like her character was kind of wasted and just like she was just there. She's a gambler and an alcoholic, and that's why she's here.
No,
speaking of wasted characters, I would like to know, he wasn't really a wasted character, but what was the guy's name? The young guy, not the doctor.
The pilot?
Yeah.
What was his? Was it Lance? Was that
Lance?
Oh my gosh, you guys, I forgot about him. I didn't even diagnose him with anything.
Oh my gosh.
because he was so, kind of there as
he
like
was so forgettable to me.
I don't know what he was there for. He was also forgettable.
Yeah, I feel like he was just kind of there to believe Nora. I feel like he was just kind of there as like I believe everything that's happening, and I could attest to the hysteria that I saw.
But also was super, I don't know, creep.
Yeah,
was he?
The first part when she's interacting with him, they go to see the wine cellar. Well, but they all go to see the wine cellar, and then they go back upstairs, and then he just like shuts her in.
But you know what? They all did that. I feel like every character had a scene where they weirdly, like anytime that Annabelle would enter into a room with someone, like the first time that she went into a room with Nora, the way that she shut the door, I noticed they all did the two-handed shutting of the door. And I was like, what is that? Like,
I love that. The two-hand shut.
Real gross. Real gross.
Okay, so I want to know your diagnosis of our main people then. I want to know about Annabelle, Frederick, and the doctor.
Okay, so let me tell you about the small people first before I tell you about them. So I think Watson, he's the guy who owns the house. I would diagnose him with PTSD because that dude has seen some stuff. Clearly is having reoccurring, experiences of those memories. So that's what I would diagnose Watson with is post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair.
Nora, poor sweet Nora. I think she's going to have some PTSD.
Yes.
The only other diagnosis I could kind of come up with for her was possibly it's brief reactive psychosis, because it depends on whether you believe the things that they saw, like the severed head or all of the ghosts or the visions, were they real or not? If they were not real, maybe she's got some reactive psychosis going on. I think that it would, dissipate. But if it is real, then she's just,
or there was some real, like the severed head. I think they did make a fake severed head, but maybe that caused her to then hallucinate things that weren't there.
Yeah. I mean, I think they were 100% gaslighting her. I mean, at the end, she shot Frederick, and then he was like, "You didn't shoot me. Right. I don't know what you're talking about."
I was like, So what about Annabelle?
Okay, so for Annabelle and Frederick, here's the thing. I feel like I need more information. I feel like I'm going to have a hard time because clearly they have an abusive relationship. Initially, I thought, okay, Annabelle's got depression. Frederick has got, some personality disorder.
Yeah, like narcissistic.
Yeah, with some like narcissistic qualities, and definitely, no empathy. But then once it you find the twist where he's acting that way toward her because she's trying to murder him and he knows it. I think it's basically just this codependent relationship where they both have some personality disorder and depression, kind of depending on who you believe.
So what about the doctor then, who comes into this like forked up dynamic and is like, "Hey baby, here's how we're going to solve your problems.
Exactly.
We're going to pretend to kill you so that some other girl can kill your husband and we'll be out of here scotch-free."
I literally wrote down, like, can you put chauvinist pig as a diagnosis? Because
that's it.
There it
That's
is.
what I would like to say for him.
There it is.
Because he was so
I want that on a t-shirt.
Yes.
we should make that a t-shirt.
Yes.
Because he just, trying to make Nora think that she's hysterical, gaslighting her, screwing around with the wife of the guy who's going to pay him $10,000, but then just being a jerk to her about it too. So I definitely a personality disorder of some sort. But I feel like I need to know more, but he's just a jerk. I think my diagnosis is he's an asshole.
Just be a jerk.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really good metaphor for this movie though, is that what you think might not actually be what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You have a feeling that you know what's going on, but then you find out there's all these secret motives. And that's what I thought was so interesting about this movie, is that there was a lot of hidden gems of things that were really happening, turmoil and angst. And
yeah. So that's kind of the gist of my diagnoses. But I think maybe the old couple, they either maybe had a bit of dementia because they seemed to not know what was going on.
Oh my god.
Caretaker.
Definitely the one
Yes.
caretaker that was just floating around.
Or
on her
maybe
little float.
Yeah, maybe they just, were a sweet old couple that got caught up with a bunch of psychopaths. Maybe that's what they were. And there was nothing wrong with them. So
oh my gosh, talking about the little float. So I will say, I love this movie. I think because it had some funny elements, I kind of forgive most of the flaws. But there were some pretty hilarious flaws where it's wait, why? Yes. How was she able to float though?
Yeah,
I was wondering that too.
Why was she floating?
Do we know how she floated or what they did for it?
I don't know what they did for it, but
reason.
That doesn't really explain it. And then the scene where Nora sees Annabelle outside her window.
Yes.
Or it was
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What?
Wait, does someone want to describe that scene real quick?
I don't know. Okay, it's like a dream. It's like a dream.
Yeah. So Nora's in the room. And this is the same scene where the rope is the snake. Yes.
Yes, that one.
Okay. So she's in the room and I also kind of had flashbacks to not poltergeist, to Beetlejuice, just the way that it moved, because it almost seemed like the way claymation or
yes, it was like claymation.
Totally.
Yes.
Beetlejuice moves. So this rope comes in, but it's coming toward her, but it seemed like that stop motion, they moved the rope a centimeter as it comes up the window along the floor.
From the outside.
From the outside. And it starts
Annabelle's body is hanging outside her window.
Yes. And then and then she see Annabelle's body.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's coming closer. Almost maybe the rope is pulling her towards Nora.
Yes. But then Nora screams, freaking out after she disappears and the rope untangles her. But then she finds Annabelle's body again hanging in the same spot.
That poor girl.
In the living room. Which is okay, even if this was all planned in order to gaslight Nora, how would they have done this?
Logistically, how did that happen? There's no way.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because one, supposedly they couldn't leave the house. So how did she get outside?
I'm guessing they knew a secret way.
Oh, true.
Since they
they were orchestrating
it. They probably knew how to do that. They had a back door or something. But even then, there's no way
to get her from dangling outside her window to dangling in a hallway in 5 seconds. And also the rope that goes inside the window, defies all gravity, and wraps around Nora.
Yeah, unless they had 2 ropes.
Yeah.
That would be the only way.
Unless you think there was some evil people doing some bad things, but also ghosts.
I mean, we should say, I feel like we haven't talked enough about that, is that this poor guy Watson, who's And I didn't like completely understand his story, but like what his family had been like murdered by ghosts in this house.
Or so he thought, at least.
Okay.
Yes.
So what do we think? Like, was that true? And was this house also haunted on top of all of the BS that they were pulling? Was the house also just haunted? Ooh.
I'm skeptical
Of there being ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
So you think no ghosts, it was all like human?
I think there were ghosts.
I think maybe there have been ghosts in that house. Maybe Watson has experienced ghosts, but I think that the evening that we witnessed was all
Ghost-free.
contrived.
Okay, I'm trying to think about this. I'm trying to think about it. Brianna, what do you think?
I think there were ghosts. I think that was part of what led to Nora's like extreme hysteria, is that there were also just ghosts.
I mean, because there were, I guess, some things that were unexplained. So we talked about the rope, which I guess they somehow did, but like even like all the candles blowing out in random rooms would keep happening. It's like, I guess maybe they could have done that, but I don't really know how. The idea is that there was no electricity or anything. So maybe it was a combo.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. While we're talking about the house, we need to venture back down into the cellar.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Yvette, what did you want to tell us about the cellar?
The point of this was.
It's just such a hilarious idea. And like, again, the movie is kind of campy, so I kind of just forgive all flaws. But like, that's just so funny. He Watson is like describing this room as like a wine cellar that someone used to work in, and therefore there is this giant pool of acid that remains covered unless you like turn this little pulley system to open it up, and there's still acid in it.
For what for? Like, what is the point?
For dissolving bodies.
Right? Like,
what is the point of that for a wine cellar? What wine cellar has that?
For dissolving bodies.
Like, it kills me.
I don't know much about making wine, but I don't know why you would need a vat of acid on the floor. Like, someone almost accidentally just tripped into it. Like, that's just a hazard.
I tried to make wine once. It was terrible.
Did you do like your bathtub?
What?
Did you do it in like your bathtub?
I did do it in the unfinished shower that has been unfinished in my basement for 6 years.
Yes, we all know that shower
is where I tried to make it, but no,
it doesn't. Yeah, you don't need a picture of it for a horror movie.
Oh, we should.
It's really creepy. Terrifying, you guys.
It's very creepy. It's one of those like enclosed ones. Yeah.
I also have bloody handprints on it right now because I've just decorated for Halloween.
Oh, nice.
So it's even creepier. But
yeah.
No, you don't need acid for that.
So I would be curious, and I'm not sure if either of you know, but like, what was the reception of this movie when it first came out? Like, do we know? Like, was it a popular movie back in the day? Like, do either of you know?
Yeah, I think it was at least fairly popular. It's hard to find like reception, not that goes up to like today, because like today it has like kind of okay reviews on like IMDb and like Rotten Tomatoes because people think it's like a good like classic one to watch. I think it was at least fairly well received because I do think the budget was about $200,000, but the profit was 1.2 million.
Okay,
so was it $200,000 in 59?
Yeah, in 59.
Okay.
So it made a pretty good profit.
Because I'm just trying to think of like the other movies that would have come out in this time. Like I'm thinking obviously Hitchcock, like, you know what I mean? Like other Hitchcock movies. And I feel like it could probably hold its own.
Oh yeah. Like fun fact. So Castle, who was the director of this movie, he loved Hitchcock and he 100% like, simulated a lot of his stuff, even like his interviews, he would do the director's chair while smoking a cigar, like talking to the audience. But when Hitchcock went and saw this movie, he was like, you know what? I want to make my own movie. I want to make something like this. And he made Psycho.
Oh my gosh.
What?
Yeah. So actually,
Crazy.
Hitchcock took a little bit of inspiration to make his own.
Oh,
and
that's so cool.
so we can thank him for Psycho now.
Oh,
Mhm.
thanks,
Okay.
Castle.
Yeah.
You know, I
God.
definitely noticed the Hitchcock vibe because I feel like I took a film course in college and we had to watch Hitchcock, and they talk about the film noir and where it's like the shadows and the angles and things like that. And I noticed that a lot in this movie where they did even there was a few scenes where they would go behind a curtain to go into a hall. And then once they were there was these, it was almost like there was bars on the window or something that cast these really cool shadows, but the characters would have these really intense moments like in that
which I think
area.
just builds for this kind of movie. Like, I think it really lends a hand in like the dramatic effect that it has.
Yeah. And I feel like they did some of those like slow pan shots that are very like Hitchcock. Like you saw the inspiration in this movie for sure.
For sure.
Yep. Oh, classic.
Okay, so I have a couple of favorite quotes from the movie that I wrote down as I was watching them. One was just a sip might improve your humor, which I thought for spooky sips.
Gosh, just a sip.
I think it was when Annabelle didn't want champagne, and so Frederick was like, just a sip might improve your humor. And I just thought, well, if that isn't the motto for my life.
I was gonna say that's our slogan now.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to remember that. Talk about putting stuff on t-shirts.
Slogan.
That's it.
Oh my god, the actor who played Frederick, and I wrote down Vincent Price.
Yes,
everything
so good.
He said he executed so well. Like,
so he's like a big star, which I didn't know this was my first Vincent Price movie. But if you loved his acting, like definitely check out other ones because he's like really well known. So this was like a big deal that they got him for this low budget movie.
Okay. No, he nailed it. I think every line that he said, I just absorbed. Like, I was like, yes, I love this. This is perfect. Yeah.
Agreed.
I can see that.
Agreed.
I feel like the other actors were like, they were okay. But he definitely
knows what
he's
doing.
He stood out for sure.
I feel like I recognize the Watson, the crazy, the
totally
owner.
He's 100% in other things.
I wonder if he's been in other things.
Yeah, he has.
Here at Spooky Sips, we don't pre-research things.
No, we're doing them right now, everyone. The
IMDb only has so much information.
Is
just edit it out. It's fine.
No, it's fine. Listen, it's a pause for dramatic effect.
I mean, we can look it up and then take a break and then put it back in if we want to look up what else he's been in.
Listen, we're a very serious operation around here.
We are.
In case you hadn't noticed. So
okay, while you guys are stalling for time, I'll say another quote that I really liked. I really liked how they just were pushing Nora with the sedatives. Maybe that was also trying to just get her all like, because they had already given her alcohol.
Yeah, part of me wonders maybe it was trying just to get her effed up.
So that like she wouldn't remember what she did or wouldn't know what she did. Because one of my other ones was, you're upset. Here, have a sedative. Like they just kept trying. It was just like, I'm not your actual doctor. I have no authority to give you one, but I'm just going to
here, dear.
There you go.
Here,
darling. Party.
Have a sedative. Yeah, it's a party. Lay back, have a good time.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I just reminded one of like the fun facts since we were just talking about Vincent Price and how amazing he is. He did the voiceover in Michael Jackson's Thriller. So he's like spooky voice that talks to you. And at one point in the movie, he does say, "It's close to midnight, Lance," which "it's close to midnight" is the first line of Thriller.
Cool.
So, I mean, Laura especially, I figured now you have a new love for Vincent Price.
So, Spooky Sips fans, I am a bit obsessed with Michael Jackson. I just love him. I love the 80s in general, but especially Michael Jackson music. And I just, that makes me very happy. That makes me very, very happy.
Thought you would appreciate that.
I really do. I really do.
So the movie was released. So it was released February of 1959. But for my
That's not
history,
good
I
enough.
just did like a whole like this year, like what happened this year.
Mhm.
And guys, this was a big year in the world. There was a
I
lot.
have some guesses to what was going on. So
Yeah, there's a lot going on at this point. Fidel Castro came to power in Cuba. The Dalai Lama was forced to flee to Tibet.
Oh,
In the US, Eisenhower was president and Nixon was VP at the time. Alaska became the 49th state in the
What?
US.
Alaska wasn't a state.
It wasn't even a state. And that was
Good job,
49. That got us to
Alaska.
49. And then
Okay.
later in that year, Hawaii became the 50th state.
oh, good job,
So,
guys.
yeah, we literally completed the US during that year.
Oh my gosh.
The first picture of Earth from space was taken in 1959.
Cool.
Barbie doll was launched.
Yes.
This one's a little longer, but musicians Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper J.P. Richardson and their pilot Roger Peterson were all killed in a plane crash in Iowa, which later became known as the day the music died, as popularized in American Pie.
Wow.
I did not know that that's what that line in that song was about.
Yeah, that's what that's about, is all of them died on the same day in a plane crash. So
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I need to go listen to that song again.
Yeah. In film news, Ben-Hur, which I have to admit I have personally not watched actually. I didn't know it was this big of a deal. But Ben-Hur premiered, which at the time was the largest movie that had ever been made with the biggest sets that anyone had ever seen. So very big movie. The Twilight Zone would be released later that year.
Oh, well, that's like perfect for this movie. Holy cow.
Yes. And Disney released Sleeping Beauty to theaters.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like, the Twilight Zone, especially coming out, is like the perfect vibe for this movie.
Did either of you ever watch The Twilight Zone?
Yes. I used to when it was like on reruns.
Yes.
Yeah.
We would, in one of our English classes, I want to say in like middle school, for whatever reason, get to watch The Twilight Zone every once in a while.
It was so
just
good.
the voice is so good.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, I'm a lot more happened in 1959, but those are the highlights.
Okay.
Interesting.
So yeah,
big
big year.
Big year for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so here on Spooky Sips, we give sips instead of stars. So, ladies, out of 5 sips, how many sips would you give this movie?
Oh man.
I would give this movie, as far as, okay, it's hard because I think like as a movie versus as a horror movie, I feel like I would give them slightly different stars.
Oh, I guess should we go, I guess for future reference, how do we want to do our rankings? I feel like we should pick like just as a general rating, or do we want to give them specifically if you're looking
can specify. You could do both. You could do both and specify. Yeah.
I think as a general movie, I'm going to give it a 4 because I think it was unique. It kept my attention. I was watching it all by myself, but I like felt like I was enjoying it. As a horror movie though, I'm only going to give it a 3. But no, 2.75 sips because
2.75 sips.
That's a very metered sip.
Yeah, because I feel like there was parts of it that were spooky and I loved the opening. The opening with the scream was so good. And there was one time I kind of jumped, but for the rest of it, I just was liking it for the nostalgia and the psychology behind it. But it wasn't my favorite horror movie. Yeah. So 4 for a movie, 2.75 for horror.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind of feel the same actually, just generally as a movie 4, because I was very pleasantly surprised the whole time. It's not your typical haunted house. They're going to throw like random jump scares at you. Like it had like an actual story that I really liked. So I think general movie, people should definitely watch it. 4 stars. As a horror movie, it's not scary. I mean, I laughed while I was watching the movie. So
especially during the skeleton.
Yeah. Like I laughed while I watched it. So don't go into this expecting horror. I will say it'll get a tiny bump in my rating because in a 1985 interview, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, my favorite person, said that this was her favorite horror film. So I'll bump it up to a 3 stars as a horror film.
Okay.
So I think I have to disagree, and I'm going to give it a 4 on both fronts. I'm going to give it a 4 on both horror and on just a movie. And here's why. Because I think for a couple of reasons. One, historically, this movie really did set the stage. Like, as far as horror movie goes, it opened the door for these kind of sound effects and visual effects. And I think it gave us a lot of future movies. So I think I've got to give it props for that. But I think also I'm going to disagree and say it is a horror movie. And here's why. Because so often, especially like in a movie like this, the horror is the humanity. And at the end of the day, this woman was willing to kill her husband just so that she could leave with the man that she was sleeping with. And then the husband kills them both. I mean,
it's a great story.
That is fair. Yeah.
I think the horror is the humanity of the actual story. Once you remove the ghosts and the goblins and the ghouls, you just have human nature, and holy shit, what a terrifying thing
there is.
Yeah. So for me, 4 sips all around.
That's respectable. That's a respectable call. Yeah.
This is that's pretty good though, all around still. That's a pretty good rating for this one. Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So next time on Spooky Sips, we are just in time for Halloween season. So we are going to move into the modern era. I know we've been a little old school with you so far, but we are going to watch Halloween Ends,
which is in theaters.
Saga. Yes, it is. Theater,
so we're gonna have to go to the theater.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to go to the theater.
So
to
everyone,
watch
go watch it.
You.
Yes, yes. So excited.
Thanks for listening to Spooky Sips. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, subscribe, and leave a rating or review wherever you're listening. To stay up to date on all the spooky things we're up to, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at SpookySips_podcast. Thanks again for listening. See you in 2 weeks for a new episode.